talk about it. Talk about food waste. And if you talk about it, you'll be amazed at the amount of people that come out of the woodwork with ideas or want to share or want to help.
Hello and welcome back to Food Waste Matters. I'm Dr. Joanne Freeman, your host from Honey and Fox. This week, we are taking the opportunity to give a big congratulations to Kelly Johnston from Woodlane Orchard, who has just taken out the Sustainability Award at this year's Food South Australia Awards. It's a well-deserved recognition for someone who's been quietly making a big impact in the way we think about food waste and sustainable business. You may recall last year we spoke with Kelly on the podcast, and after 15 years as a Scout leader, she knew a thing or two about creating fast, tasty meals that didn't rely on refrigeration. So drawing on that experience, Kelly launched Woodlane Orchard in 2019 with a clear goal to make the most of surplus and seconds produce. She's based in the Murraylands region of South Australia, and Kelly sources food locally and transforms what others might overlook into dehydrated soups, meals, snacks, and garnishes. Kelly is also the founder of SPhiker, a hiking food brand designed for people who care about what they eat and how it's packaged. It's lightweight, plant-based, and 100% compostable, so it's really sustainability in action. To celebrate her recent win, we thought it was the perfect time to replay our episode with Kelly from last year, where she talks about how Woodlane Orchard came to be, the thinking behind SPhiker, and what drives her commitment to do things differently. So if you missed it the first time, now's a great time to tune in, especially in the light of her latest recognition. Hello, Kelly, and welcome to Food Waste Matters. So before we start, can you tell us a bit about how did Woodlane Orchard come about?
Woodlane Orchard came about because I needed a job. So I had been working away from home, came home and noticed there was a lot of surplus produce around me, and a friend in particular had a ton of peaches he was about to throw out. So he had taken the time to grow them, pick them, cut them, dry them, and then was going to have to throw them out. So I value added to them and sold them really quickly. And then my husband said, "Oh, you better trot off and find another job." And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. So I had a look around, and there was a lot more produce around. So I started to think about it a little bit more seriously and what I could do. And so I started to use some of the processes I'd used in dehydrating with my Scouts and created my Woodlane Orchard products.
And so where do you get your produce from?
Generally, as much as possible, I try to get it direct from farmers. I'm really, really after their seconds and ugly produce. And you have to educate them, because even the other day I had a farmer in going, "Oh, no, I'll just get rid of the ugly pumpkins and you can have the good ones at a good price." And I'm going, "But I'll give you a good price for the ugly ones." "Yeah, but you don't want those." I'm like, "No, that is what I want. I want the ugly ones, the ones you're going to throw away. They're the ones that I want to use." And he just, I get farmers all the time. They just don't understand why you would want to take the ugly ones.
And so with your farmers, so what do they do with all of this excess fruit, or fruit that, is not up to par to go to a supermarket, for instance?
The majority of it drops and wastes on the ground. The massive majority. Some will get rid of it to, livestock, to other farmers with livestock, but generally they just let it drop and rot.
That is mind blowing. Now, why do they let it drop, Kelly? What are the main reasons they don't pick it?
The biggest reason is they can't afford to pay the labour to pick it. It's there. If they can't move it because people don't want to eat ugly fruit, then they're picking fruit that's just going to go to waste. They're going to pay wages that's going to achieve absolutely nothing. So they just let it drop and rot.
So it's more cost effective for them to let the food fall to the ground. That's basically the
Absolutely.
message.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for our listeners, Woodlane Orchard, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Kelly in person and going to her food operation. You're located in the Murraylands, which is about 2 hours west of Adelaide.
At the moment, we're about an hour and 20 minutes. So we're sort of closer to Manham at the moment.
And so what are some of the challenges of operating your own food business in a regional location, Kelly?
Well, for me, it's beneficial to be where I am. I'm where the farmers are. So, I can get them, they can drop in the gate. We have a really lovely local guy who's growing his pumpkin, who's done zucchini. He'll just turn up with it, peaches, apricots, oranges. There's loads of orchards around me that their food will go to waste. So they're quite happy for us to come in and pick surplus produce.
And how do you find these farmers or the growers?
Well, initially I knew them. They were just friends and neighbours. And slowly word is spreading that we will grab that sort of produce. So, and that's not to say that it's all from farmers. We get a considerable amount seconds and surplus out of the central market. I'm trying to educate local fruiterers, markets in town to, instead of throwing out their surplus or their older fruits and vegetables, to send them our way. But it's hard to educate them to do that. Yeah.
What is that stumbling block, Kelly, that they won't find another home, if you like, for food that's starting to get a bit old?
Yeah, they've got to have a place to store that produce. And on top of that, they've got to have staff and wages to pay in order to move it around and do what they've got to do with it. So if I'm to get a hold of it, I have to make the process as simple as humanly possible. It has to be really, really easy and very cost effective for them to get it to me, or they just won't do it. It's the same with the farmers. If it's not cost effective, and in many cases in our area, my husband goes and picks the fruit, because it's going to drop on the ground. So he'll be out in the paddock picking lemons and cursing my name because he's got a full-time job and now he's hunting down, the last skerricks of lemons off 50 trees and he finds 20 lemons. That's what he does.
Now, Kelly, tell me about your products and how you come up with the ideas, particularly around your new product or the one that you're focusing on this year, which is your SPhiker brand.
So I was a scouter for 15 years. I had 3 beautiful sons and I did scouting with them. And during that time, did lots of hiking, and a lot of the hiking food wasn't super palatable to the kids. They didn't really like it, or it was just too expensive. So we used to put together rice and polenta and pasta and all sorts, and the kids would create dehydrated meals. So I'd collect and dry out all sorts of things, and they'd have a blast making their meals. So when I started looking at all the surplus vegetables that I had, I thought, well, I can do that, but I'll do it to a family size, so that it's simple for families to have a shelf-stable meal, add water, and they get a really lovely meal at the end of the day. And I did that, and it went really well. But then I had lots of people coming to me saying, there's too much food in the bag. We want smaller, we want lighter, we want to be able to take your products on our hikes, cycling and sailing. And so I then downsized again back to a hike size meal. So we have a Woodlane product for the family. We have a SPhiker product for the very lightweight traveller, and all born out of scouting. So, had I not scouted, I would never have ever come up with the idea.
So Kelly, tell me about this SPhiker product. What sort of flavours or what sort of meals can you make?
So we do soups and meals. So most of them are exactly the meals that we do big into small. So apricot curries and risottos and pastas, tomato soups and vegetable soups and sweet potato soups. And we also paired with a beautiful little company called The Gathered Bowl, who do beautiful lentil burgers. So, there's a bit of everything there. There's some breakfast cereals, soups, main meals and snacks. So it's pretty much the whole thing that you might need on a weekend away, and very, very, very lightweight.
And it's not just for campers, is it? We were talking about, using it on yachts, a caravan is using it, so that, it has lots of application. It's not just for the hikers.
Has wonderful applications. And in fact, we have Big Heart Adventures who use it on their hiking adventures. We have just picked up Operation Flinders, who are an amazing organisation in South Australia that take disenfranchised youth out into the bush. They're about to start utilising it. And we've picked up 2 around the world race sailors who will be using it for over 400 days on sea. So, yeah, it's got great applications for all sorts.
But, it's not just your food or your product that's helping us reduce waste or transform waste into profit. You were also to tell me about your packaging.
Yeah, so that's the exciting thing about SPhiker. I've always wanted to be 100% sustainable as much as possible. We've got solar on the roof. We have very little waste. Any scraps go back to the animals, so we've got little waste that's sort of going into the bin. But packaging's been a real problem. There's not a lot out there that you can use, and it's important to my customers to see the product. There's a lot of integrity in looking in the bag and seeing what's in there, and we want that. We finally come across a product that is clear, that is home compostable. So if you go out in the bush and you drop that bag out there, it's going to rot away. So I finally got that last tick. We're trialing it on SPhiker, and if it works really well, which it's looking really promising, we'll move our entire Woodlane Orchard range into that as well.
And so how does that impact on the shelf life of the product, Kelly?
So far it hasn't, and that is where we were hoping it would be. The packaging, because it's home compostable, will break down eventually. They are hoping, and they couldn't guarantee us, 18 months. Now, there is an issue with Woodlane Orchard because even though we're best by 12 months, the product actually will last a lot longer. And that is where I am nervous about using the packaging. But we're trialling it to see how far we can push it. And should it work, and science is catching up all the time. So by the time we finally go, yeah, it's good, something else will have come along anyway, no doubt. But that's the way we want to head.
That's fantastic. And Kelly, when I came to visit you, we were talking a lot about how you worked within the local community, and how would a local circular economy system worked. And you had come up with some great ideas because you're actually living it and doing it now. Can you share some of those ideas with our listeners?
Sure. I would love to see, certainly in our region, I think it could be replicated in every region, that you have a hub, you have somewhere or someone who's able to logistically know where all the waste is, where all the food surplus is, and are able to generate that out to individual businesses. And then finally, we have Monado Zoo in our region. So if we had somebody who could say, well, we've got lemons, peaches, put it out so the humans can eat as much of it as possible, and whatever waste is left, it could go through to Monado Zoo for the animals there. I just think, how great would that be to get Monado Zoo on the map as not just sustainable in terms of their animal culture and everything, but to be helping the whole region to minimise food waste. I think it's just as simple as one person's wage in the Riverland, in the Murraylands, in the hills, to coordinate all the businesses who have too much food and send it somewhere to get used.
I can tell you're really passionate about this, and I look forward to future conversations with you about it. So do you find that other businesses in the region are interested to find out or even aware about the food waste issues?
I think because I'm in a farming region right now, they are absolutely aware of the waste. And on a year like this year, where we've had, devastating climate problems that have, devastated stone fruit crops, these farmers have got hardly anything at all. Some of them have got nothing at all. So, it's glut or, one year they've got so much they need to get rid of, the next year they've got nothing, like this year. So, last year I had more fruit than I could deal with surplus. This year we had nothing. We're already out of stone fruit into a month in. So it really depends on the climate, on the weather, but the farmers are very aware of surplus, and if they could do it affordably and easily, they would move fruit and vegetables on. But while they have to pay to do it and lose money and still put food into their children's bellies, they are not going to do it.
Yeah, it's not viable for them.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, if there was one message you'd like to share with our listeners, one message, very similar to yourself, there is this waste and surplus, and this is what you're doing to transform it. What's that one message you would give to other people to try to get them on the wagon about thinking about food waste and actually turning it into profit, like yourself?
I think it's like, we're always talking about climate change at the moment, and food waste is such a huge part of that. We have to be able to feed our planet, our children. You should be thinking about it every day. So many people are so wasteful with what they just chuck in the bin and things like that, or they have a fruit tree in the backyard and they go, oh well, and they just let it drop on the ground when 3 doors down somebody's hungry. Share your wealth. Get out there. If you've got something extra, ask around. Somebody's always going to want to use it. And in terms of starting your own business, I've been approached by so many people since our landline episode. How do I do it? Just get a couple of dryers and start. Like, it's not hard. Start stockpiling, and once you've got that product sitting on the shelf, someone's going to want it. Get out there, talk about it, talk about food waste. And if you talk about it, you'll be amazed at the amount of people that come out of the woodwork with ideas or want to share or want to help. It's just talk about it.
So we love keeping tabs on our past guests, like Kelly, who just keeps finding clever ways to reduce food waste and build stronger food systems. It's a great reminder that small actions really can lead to bigger change. Her practical, no waste approach celebrates local food, supports local farmers, and shows that with a bit of creativity, there's plenty of value in what's left behind. Thanks for tuning into Food Waste Matters. If you'd like to dive deeper into anything we've talked about today, you'll find all the links and resources in the show notes. If you've missed any episodes, you can catch up anytime on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Food Waste Matters. Finally, if you've got any feedback, a question, or your own story to share, drop us a line at foodwastematters@honeyandfox.com.au. So until next time.